England look like one of the strongest teams in world football right now. A squad filled with elite talent, players dominating Europe, and a generation that seems perfectly built for glory. On paper, this should be their moment. The moment everything finally comes together. But the truth is, we've said that before, over and over again. For decades, England have arrived at major tournaments carrying the same label favorites, contenders. This time it's different. And every single time, something goes wrong. Not just defeat, but collapse at the worst possible moment. So now, as the 2026 World Cup approaches, the stakes feel heavier than ever. Because if this team fails too, it won't just be another missed opportunity. It might confirm something far more uncomfortable, that England isn't just unlucky. They might be fundamentally broken when it matters most. Because at some point, you have to stop calling it bad luck. One tournament can be a mistake. Two can be coincidence. But when it happens again and again, across generations, with completely different players, different managers, different systems, then it becomes something else entirely. Something deeper. England have produced world-class talent for decades. Players who dominate club football, win trophies, perform under pressure every single week. And yet, when they come together under one shirt, at the biggest stage, something changes. The confidence fades, the control slips, the same team that looks unstoppable suddenly becomes fragile. So the question isn't whether England are good enough. That part is obvious. The real question is this. What is it about this team, this badge, this history, that keeps pulling them back at the exact moment they should be rising? And to understand that, you have to go back, because this story didn't start recently. It's been building for a very long time. It all begins in 1966, the only time England ever reached the top of the world. A victory on home soil that didn't just bring a trophy, it created an identity. From that moment on, England weren't just another team, they were supposed to be giants. And yet, what followed was not dominance, but decades of near misses and painful collapses. In 1986, a moment that still defines football history, Diego Maradona turned a quarterfinal into a nightmare, scoring twice in completely different ways, one controversial, one unstoppable. And England were out again. In 1998, it was David Beckham who became the center of a national meltdown, sent off in a game they could have won, before another penalty shootout ended their run. In 2002, just when belief was rising again, Ronaldinho produced a single moment of brilliance that flipped everything, eliminating them when they looked ready to compete. Then came 2010, a collapse against Germany that exposed a gap far bigger than expected. In 2018, they reached a semi-final and felt closer than ever, only to fall apart against Croatia when it mattered most. And in 2022, against France, the opportunity was right there until it wasn't. Different teams, different eras, but the same ending, over and over again. When you step back and look at all of it together, a pattern begins to emerge. This isn't just a series of unlucky moments. It's something far more consistent and far more concerning. England don't usually get dominated. They don't lack talent. In many of these tournaments, they were good enough, sometimes even better than their opponents. But at the exact moment when the game shifts, when pressure peaks and decisions matter most, something changes. The composure disappears. The rhythm breaks. And suddenly, the team that looked in control starts reacting instead of dictating. It's happened too many times to ignore. This is not about tactics alone, and it's not about individual mistakes either. It's about a mentality that has been built over decades, a weight of expectation that doesn't inspire confidence, but creates hesitation. Every generation carries the failures of the last, whether they admit it or not. And when the moment arrives, it feels less like an opportunity and more like a test they're expected to fail. England don't just play against their opponents. They play against their own history. And history, so far, has always found a way to win. And yet, this is where the story starts to feel different. Because this current England team doesn't just have talent, they have players performing at the very highest level of the game right now. Harry Kane is no longer just a goal scorer, but a complete forward at the peak of his career, leading with consistency and responsibility. Jude Bellingham represents something England rarely had before, a midfielder who can control games, dictate tempo, and deliver in decisive moments on the biggest stage. And around them, there's a generation built on technical quality and tactical intelligence, with players like Phil Foden bringing creativity and unpredictability that can unlock any defense. This isn't a team relying on one or two stars. It's a system filled with players who are used to winning, used to pressure, and used to delivering when it matters at club level. On paper, this might be the most complete England squad in decades, balanced, experienced, and still hungry. And that's exactly what makes this moment so dangerous. Because for the first time in a long time, the expectations aren't just hopeful, they feel justified. This isn't about potential anymore, it's about proof. And that changes everything. But here's the part no one really wants to admit. This might also be England's biggest problem, because having all this talent doesn't automatically create a team that knows how to win together. In fact, it can do the opposite. Too many options, too many systems, too many ways to play, but no single identity that defines them when things get difficult. At club level, these players thrive inside clear structures with roles that never change. But when they come together, that clarity often disappears. And when pressure hits, instinct takes over. Not the instinct of a team that has won together, but of individuals trying to solve the same problem in different ways. That's when hesitation creeps in. That's when control slips. And that's when games turn. England don't lack quality. They might lack something far more important, the ability to become one team at the exact moment it matters most. And that's what makes what comes next so intense. Because this isn't just another tournament for England. This is a moment that could define an entire generation. For Harry Kane, this might be the final opportunity to silence every doubt that has followed his career, a world-class striker who has scored everywhere, but still carries the question of whether he can lead a team to ultimate success. For players like Jude Bellingham, this is a chance to prove that talent alone is enough to break a cycle that has lasted decades. But if they fail, the consequences won't just disappear. This team will be remembered the same way others were. Another golden generation that promised everything and delivered nothing. The media pressure in England doesn't fade. It amplifies. Every mistake is magnified. Every missed chance becomes part of a narrative that follows players for the rest of their careers. And the deeper you go into a tournament, the heavier that pressure becomes. Because now, it's no longer about playing well. It's about surviving moments that define history. One penalty, one mistake, one lapse in focus. That's all it has ever taken. And for England, it has always been enough to end the dream. That's why, heading into this moment, England have made a decision that says everything about their intentions. This is no longer about building for the future. It's about winning now. The appointment of Thomas Tuchel isn't just a change on the touchline, it's a statement. A coach known for structure, discipline, and the ability to deliver in high-pressure tournaments. Someone who doesn't just organize teams, but prepares them to survive the moments that decide everything. Because that's exactly what England have been missing. Not talent, not depth, but clarity when it matters most. Under Tuchel, there is no room for confusion, no room for hesitation. Every role defined, every phase controlled. This is a shift from expression to execution, and it reveals something deeper about where England are right now. They're not chasing identity anymore. They're chasing results. And that changes the entire equation. Because when a team stops asking, how do we play? And starts asking, how do we win? Everything becomes more intense. And that's why this World Cup feels different from everything that came before. Not because England suddenly became talented, but because they've run out of reasons to fail. This is no longer about potential, or rebuilding, or waiting for the next generation. This is the moment where everything has to come together. Because if it doesn't, then what exactly are they building towards? A team with this much quality, this much experience, this much expectation if they fall short again, it won't just be another disappointment. It will confirm a truth that England have been trying to escape for decades, that no matter how good they look, something always breaks when it matters most. So now, the question isn't whether England can compete. It's much simpler than that. When the moment comes, will they finally become winners?